Welcome, everyone, to the Earthkeeper Stargate webcast. Our very special guest today is Kevin Todeschi. Kevin is Executive Director and CEO of Edgar Cayce's ARE and Atlantic University. He is responsible for managing the day-to-day operations of the Edgar Cayce organizations. As both a student and teacher of the Cayce material for 40 years, he has lectured on 5 continents in front of thousands of people. He envisioned the Cayce organization's multi-million-dollar renovation and construction projects, which added 11,000 square feet to the international headquarters. A prolific writer, he is the author of more than 27 books, including Edgar Cayce on the Akashic Records, Edgar Cayce on Vibrations, Edgar Cayce on Soulmates, Edgar Cayce on Auras and Colors, Edgar Cayce on Reincarnation and Family Karma, and his most recent book, Contemporary Cayce, which is an overview of the Cayce material in easy to understand modern language. A nationally recognized resource on the interpretation of dreams, Kevin Todeschi has taught thousands of students the art of dream interpretation. He is the author of the best dream book ever and Dream Images and Symbols. He also authored Dream Interpretation, A through Z dictionary. Known for his ability to explain complex subjects in a straightforward and easy to understand manner, Kevin is a very popular speaker for his insight and his sense of humor. One focus of his work is to understand and to assist individuals in understanding how they are very much responsible for creating a better world. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Thanks for having me on the program.
It's a great honor. It's a great pleasure. And thank you very much for joining us today. Now, before we begin the actual interview, I would like to mention that Kevin Todeschi will be a featured guest speaker at our event in Little Rock, Arkansas, Equinox Weekend, September 21st through 24th. Our speakers include Kevin Todeschi, Graham Hancock, John Hogue, Dr. Robert Schock, John Van Auken, Dr. Lauren Little, Dr. Greg Little, William Henry, Joanne Parks, Andrew Collins, Dr. John Ryan, MD, Dr. Joe McNamara, MD, Michelle Nocerino, Linda Robinson, Adrian Goff, Wendy Zelia, Gentle Bear India, C.J. Walker, Elaine McCarthy, Ken Standing Elk, and myself, James Tyberonn. So we are looking forward to an incredible event in Arkansas, and Kevin will be a keynote speaker. Kevin, can you give us a little background on Edgar Cayce?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Edgar Cayce is the most documented psychic of all time. He lived between 1877 and 1945, and for 43 years of his adult life, somehow he was able to put himself to sleep, close his eyes. He'd be given the name and address of someone anywhere in the world, and he could tune into that person and not only describe what was wrong with them, but he could recommend doctors for them to go to. He could outline regimens of treatment. And for many, many years, the focus of his readings really were on health and healthcare. But then after 1923, someone asked a question about astrology, and that led into a whole new realm of work having to do with not only past lives, but all kinds of advice, whether it's business advice, relationship advice, how to heal karmic issues, how to be a better person, how to work with your intuition, how to work with your dreams. So in total, the Cayce material, including the health material, covers an astonishing 10,000 different topics. And the Cayce database is actually 24 million words. So there's no wonder there's so many books about Edgar Cayce.
Absolutely amazing. How did you first get involved with the Edgar Cayce material, Kevin?
Well, when I was in high school, back in 1975 actually, a teacher had recommended me for Boys State. There's Boys State and Girls State throughout many parts of the United States, and basically it's a college program you go to learn more about the government. And this teacher thought I would be good at it. So I went up there to the University, Colorado State University, and the program was about, the executive branch and the judiciary branch and Congress. And I have to tell you, by Wednesday I was kind of bored, and I thought to myself, boy, the last thing I want to do is go into government. So I went down to the bookstore, student bookstore, and this was 1975, and it was right after the book by Jeff Stern had come out called A Prophet in His Own Country, the story of the young Edgar Cayce. And the true story is, which I hadn't actually told all of it until about 12 years ago, but the true story was I read that book, and when my father came and picked me up, I told him, I'm supposed to move to Virginia Beach, and I'm supposed to be president of ARE. And he thought I was crazy. But that's exactly what happened. I've been a part of the ARE staff for 35 years, and 12 years ago when Charles Thomas Cayce retired, I became CEO. And it has just been an incredible, wonderful experience.
Well, thank you for your service, Kevin. You have done an incredible job, as have the entire staff at the Edgar Cayce Foundation, the Association for Research and Enlightenment, and Atlantic University. Kevin, I know you've written about the Akashic records. What are the Akashic records, and what did Edgar Cayce say about them?
Well, Cayce suggested there was this, for lack of a better word, a force field that surrounds the Earth. He also called it an etheric field. I often think of it as a supercomputer system, a database. And basically this force field, this etheric field, called the Akasha, or the Akashic record, keeps track, apparently, of every thought, every word, every deed by every individual that has ever passed through the Earth. And according to Cayce, our name is actually written next to our deeds and thoughts and everything that we've ever done. And that somehow Cayce was able to tune into this database. And it's a database not only of the past, having to do with data, but the Akashic records also draw to each individual exactly what they need, exactly when they need it. It's somehow they're responsible for bringing us our soul lessons, our soul experiences, our relationships. And we also, as unusual it may sound, can preview our future sometimes, because the database is pulling together ideas that, well, if Kevin does this, here's the outcome. If Kevin does that, here's the outcome. And it's kind of like a concept that once we make a choice, the mind of God can see what the end result is. Now, as unusual as all that may sound, we've all heard probably about a near-death experience where somebody dies and then they have a life review and they kind of see everything that transpired in their life before they're revived and come back. Cayce would say that what's actually happening is that person is tuning into their own Akashic record and seeing a shadow or glimmer of some of the things they've done in life.
Wow, that's a huge concept to take in. Kevin, I've heard you speak about the Cayce readings, referring to each of us being a co-creator in terms of our lives. What does that mean? What did Cayce say about co-creation?
You know, there's so many ways he talked about it that, when we hear the word co-creation, or we hear there's a line in the Cayce material that we're all co-creators with God, I think sometimes even those people who are involved with ARE or those people who have been students of the Cayce material for a long time think, well, yeah, maybe once we die, we're going to be a co-creator with God. But Cayce makes it very much a here and now kind of thing, that we're co-creators in our choices, in our decisions, in how we interact with one another. When we get up in the morning, we decide what to do. And it works perhaps like this. Let's say that two people have the very same experience. Perhaps the loss of a job. They're fired from their job, let's say. And one may get very upset and angry and get upset with the company, the boss, and say, I'm going to take unemployment for as long as I can. Those sons of gun at the workplace, they never should have fired me, becomes very angry and very upset. Whereas somebody else might say, I never really liked that job anyway. This gives me a chance to do something completely different, something I've always wanted. Cayce would say it's not that what happens to us that it helps to create our lives. Instead, it's how we respond to what happens to us that we help to create our lives. And we respond every time we have an interaction with another person. We respond every time we have some kind of encounter at work. We respond every time we even stand in line at the grocery store or get upset at somebody in traffic. So we are constantly co-creating our lives. And as we do that, we're constantly co-creating who we're becoming, who we're in the process of becoming.
So it sounds like every action has importance, that not only our attitude, but especially our actions in dealings with others is part of this.
Absolutely. And the thing that's, actually we have a staff meeting at ARE about once a month, and this last month I actually talked to them, the whole staff, about co-creation, because what happens is once we get into a certain mindset, like for example, let's say our mindset is we always try to see the best in other people, then because mind is the builder, as Cayce would say, and we're constantly co-creating, the more often you try to see the best in people, the easier it becomes. And you instantly see what's good about people when meeting them. Unfortunately, the reverse is also true. If you constantly try to see or constantly see what's wrong with people, or you constantly see where they've fallen short, or you constantly see what's wrong in society, it actually becomes easier for you to be able to criticize people because you're co-creating, you're creating a mindset that sees the glass half empty all the time rather than the glass half full. So Cayce's approach is you really need to become cognizant of what you're holding in mind, and he would use the term have a spiritual ideal so that you're really building something positive for the future.
That's absolutely amazing. Kevin, you've written over 25 books, and there's a vast array of topics that are very important. One of your books is about Edgar Cayce explaining auras and colors. What is the human aura?
Well, it's a lot of things. In part, it is our personal connection to the Akashic records, so that sometimes when a psychic is tuning into us, and let's say they either use psychometry, which is holding onto a person's objects or a picture and tuning into the vibration, or they're sitting there in front of us and see us, the aura is actually that part of our soul connection that is plugged into our own Akashic record, so that everything we've ever been, everything we've ever done, everything we've ever thought has a vibrational shadow in the human aura, and so the psychic can pick up on that. But in addition to that, if we have an angry thought, for example, you might get a little flare of red in your aura. If you have a spiritual thought, it might be more blue. If we're living up in our head, always thinking, yellow might be the predominant color. So whatever's going on right now in our life is reflected in the aura, and the aura is really a number of colors that vibrate. Colors vibrate just like energy to whatever we're holding in mind, whatever we're thinking. So we take our aura with us, we take our energy with us, we take our vibration with us. In fact, Hewlin Cayce, who is Edgar Cayce's eldest son, he's long passed away, but he used to say that ultimately, because of our vibration, because of our personal auric field, that we literally heal or harm every person we come in contact with just by walking by them because of the vibration in our auric field.
That is a deep thought. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Cayce actually gave a blueprint for developing a set of lenses that assist people in seeing auras. Is that correct?
That is correct. And actually, I've looked through probably a half a dozen of them. He called it an auroscope. And basically what it does is it's several colored sheets of glass, red, blue, green, for example. And what you do is you look, rather than looking out at the world as you normally do, you look at a person or an object through these panes of glass that you kind of turn, like they're in a, kind of like a, what are those old things called that kids used to have where you would look through them and you pull out the crank on the side and you see different, kind of like a kaleidoscope, yeah. And you look through it as you're spinning the wheel, and what happens is you condition your sight, your perception, to the various colors. And then when you look through that, somehow those colors become more prominent in the person you're looking at. So if they have more blue in their aura, you'll see that. If they have more green, you'll see that. If they have more yellow, you'll see that. The best one I've looked through is one that Sidney Kirkpatrick has. And basically what it is it's just some blue plates of glass that you stare at for 2 minutes. And then when you remove them and look at another person or even yourself, you can actually see a faint line of color around the individual. Or I did it and could see it around my arm. So basically what it does is it somehow enhances the retina in the eye or the perception of the eye, and it is able to see energy of color, but it only lasts for a few minutes. It doesn't last for any length of time.
That's fascinating.
Cayce auras, without an instrument, Cayce was able to look at someone and he could tell what was going on in their life just by looking at an aura.
Amazing. Are these glasses available for purchase?
Well, there was a group of people in Florida who actually had created a prototype of the glasses, but because of the cost of the plates of glass and the precision that the glass had to be cut with, the last I heard, the cost was somewhere around $2,000. So I don't think they're not moving into mass production just yet. They're trying to figure out a way to make it more cost efficient.
Wow, that's amazing. Kevin, there's such a vast range of subject matter in the Edgar Cayce readings. Can you give us an overview of some of these topics?
Sure, and what I'd like to do maybe is as I go along, I'll give you some experiences I've had with some of them, just to
wonderful.
show how practical this has been. One of the, perhaps the most prominent set of information in the readings has to do with health and the fact that somehow we each have the capacity to improve our own health. And, you know, we do that in many ways, whether it's exercise or diet, or sometimes we know that what foods aren't good for us. In my own life, when I was going to college, I had a severe problem with allergies. In fact, doctors told me that I was allergic to every tree, bush, and shrub that grew in the state of Colorado. And so I started getting 6 allergy shots a week, 3 in each setting at the Student Health Center. By working with the Cayce information on allergies, which does have to do with diet, it does have to do with alkalining your system. It also has to do with taking a product called glycothylamine, which is basically a alkaliner. I don't even take pills anymore. And so I've had a complete turnaround with my allergies by working with the Cayce information on health. And if any of your listeners out there have a health issue or they know someone who has a health issue, if they go to edgarcayce.org, we have about 400 illnesses on the website. You don't have to even be a member. You can look up Cayce's treatment protocol for about 400 different illnesses. So health is definitely a major topic in the readings. Another one is that our individual relationships at home, at work, everywhere are really our own personal laboratory in soul growth. Cayce would say that everyone in our life is there for a reason, that people who push our buttons are really there to try to help us become better able to deal with them. So we meet all kinds of people, positively and negatively. The positive people, sometimes they inspire us and help us to do even better. The challenging people sometimes make us draw upon resources we didn't even know we had to be able to deal with them. And I remember when I still lived in Colorado, there was this place I worked at that one of the people in the office drove me crazy. And we got to the point where we didn't even hardly speak. And at the time, I remember being at home and I'd work with meditation. I'd be reading some scripture. I'd be reading the Course in Miracles, all kinds of things. And it hit me kind of, it's so much easier to be spiritual alone at home with your door closed than when you're there at work. So I decided I really needed to work on that relationship. And Cayce's approach was really what you needed to do was to start giving this other person the kind of relationship you would ultimately like to have. And what I decided on was, I'd like it if this person was my friend. And so from thereafter, everything I could do, to try to be friendly to this person. Say hello every morning, go out of your way to do friendly things. And, it took about 6 weeks, but that relationship turned around and it blew me away because it was just a matter of applying what I knew to do to try to help heal that relationship. So I think all of our relationships are there to help us to become better people. Another topic of interest is the readings would say that we're wired for personal guidance, that the universe wants us to succeed. And yes, we can get help from psychics, we can get help from the Cayce readings, we can get help from all kinds of sources, but personally, we can get guidance, whether it's intuition, synchronicity, or dreams. And I'd like to tell you my first dream experience I had in a study group, if I could.
Yes,
to show
please.
how this worked. So I was in a study group in Colorado, and study groups are groups of people that discuss concepts like prayer and meditation and cooperation and coming to know yourself. And this group was really great because every 6 months they do something different. Like they'd say, okay, we're going to all dream on a question, and then we're going to come back and we're going to share our dreams with one another. And I had never tried it. I'd never even remembered whether or not I remembered my dreams. And everyone in this group was about 20 years older than I, so I was kind of worried I'd be the only one without a dream. But the group decided the question we were going to work on was, what do I need to work on spiritually? So the goal was, you go home, you write out that question, you look at it before you go to bed, and then watch your dreams and see what happens. So I did that the first night, and I woke up the next day, and I didn't remember anything. So I got a little performance anxiety because I thought, boy, I'm going to be the only one there in the group without a dream. So I did it again the next night, only this time I read it over and over and over and again. And just to be sure, I folded up my piece of paper and tucked it in my undershorts just to make sure I had it with me all night. And this is the dream I had. Remember, I wrote out the question, what do I need to work on spiritually? And in the dream, I found myself in Egypt. And up to that point, I had never been to Egypt. I've actually been to Egypt since then 6 times. ARE does tours all over the world. But at the time, I had never been to Egypt. And in the dream, I was with a group of about 50 ARE people, and we were on a tour. And just as I'm coming out of the Great Pyramid, somebody in the tour said really loud, by the way, Jesus taught Kevin some dance steps, and Kevin wants to show them to you now. Well, I was really surprised because I didn't remember meeting Jesus, and I didn't know anything about dancing. But all these people started gathering around me, and I thought, well, I'm a team player. I guess I can come up with something. So I was trying to think of what dance I could come up with. And as all these people are sitting down, somebody in ARE sat down in front of me that I knew, and I actually said worse than this, but the thought was basically, what an idiot, as this person sat down. What an idiot, and this person sat down in front of me. And as soon as I thought that, I looked across the desert plateau, and I could see Jesus standing there. And he thought back what I had just thought, and his next thought was, more than anything else, you need to work on your thoughts. Well, I woke up the next morning, and here I had read this question, what do I need to work on spiritually? And the answer was, work on your thoughts. I was blown away. And since that time, dozens of times, I've written out a question, read it before going to bed, and gotten insights from it the very next day, and it's just been great. I think another major topic in the readings is that each of us has a personal, or can have a personal relationship with the divine, and that relationship can be facilitated through meditation and prayer. Another topic is that we are all loved and we're eternal. And I think another major topic would be that each of us is a gold mine of ancient mysteries. We're each an archaeological dig. We have talents, past lives, urges, and all we have to do is live up to the best of our abilities, and we can bring so many of those positive things to the forefront.
Amazing. Kevin, you have also spoken about and written a book about some of the famous historical people that had reading with Edgar Cayce, as well as celebrities. Can you share a few?
Sure. Let's see. Let me first say that most often when Edgar Cayce gave a past life reading, it was not for someone who had been famous. He
Right.
Very often it was for someone who had been a farmer or a beggar or, you know, just a regular student or whatever. So the bulk of the readings are not necessarily for famous people. But that said, let me think which one comes to mind easily.
I know he was involved in the Amelia Earhart search.
Well, yeah, he gave, you know, he gave readings for, the way this happened is her husband had a friend who was very involved in the Edgar Cayce material. And when she disappeared, the friend contacted the husband and asked if it would be okay to get a reading from Edgar Cayce, and he said yes. So Edgar Cayce gave the reading, and he said that Amelia was still alive, and I believe her navigator was George Noonan, I believe was his name, that George Newton had been horribly injured in the crash, and that he would not survive long, and there was not a whole lot of food or water on this island. They were all by themselves, and he suggested that they were 100 miles, I think he said, to the south, it's either northeast or southeast of where they were looking. So that information was provided on, and again, a follow-up reading was done maybe 2 weeks later, and Cayce said that Noonan had died and that Amelia had died with like 10 days later, and they had come close to finding them, but they had not gone far enough to get to where they were located.
Wow.
So it wasn't that helpful, of course, but the readings suggest that she did survive the crash and could have been found, but they just didn't look in the right location.
Wow, that's fascinating. Now, did he also give readings for Edison and Tesla?
Well, anecdotally, supposedly he also gave readings for Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah.
Woodrow Wilson. But we do not, other than anecdotal stories and times when we weren't really sure where he was, there's no physical evidence we have in our vault that those readings exist. What I can tell you, for example, in the case of Woodrow Wilson, Woodrow Wilson's main bodyguard, Secret Service bodyguard, was William Starling.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Colonel Starling eventually wrote a book about his years in the White House called Starling of the White House. Well, Colonel Starling grew up in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, which is where Edgar Cayce was born. So we do know that Colonel Starling and Edgar Cayce were friends, and that's probably how Edgar Cayce got to the White House. And according to the readings that we do have, that Cayce gave readings suggesting a peace plan for the League of Nations, of how peace could come into the earth through the League of Nations. And that, of course, was Woodrow Wilson's, desire, his hope, and that all failed. But again, we don't have any physical evidence of a reading for either Wilson or Tesla or Edison, other than anecdotal stories.
Kevin, Edgar Cayce in 1944 gave a reading that stated, "From Russia comes hope for the world." What do you think that means?
Well, I think the quote is, "Guided by that influence whose motto is, in God we trust." So my sense from that reading has always been that Russia, and I'm not saying this is in practical application, but in visionary ideal, Russia supposedly was founded on the principle that the state needs to take care of everyone, that everyone has is treated equally, that everyone has a piece or a place in society. I think that goal is what Cayce means by out of Russia comes the hope of the world. That sentiment that somehow we are responsible one for another, and that guided by that influence of the country whose motto is "In God We Trust," I think that if you took the best that the United States had to offer, which is that we each have the capacity through our will to live up to the best of our ability, and that we can each worship how we would, I think the readings would say that freedom of religion is not the same as freedom from religion, which tends to be where so many of us are headed nowadays. But if you take those influences and combine it with Russia's vision of somehow being responsible for everyone, that's the hope of the world. That's what I think he means by that.
Fascinating. I made several trips to Russia when I was doing my geoengineering work. And it's a fascinating country. The people are very kind. The common man is quite intelligent, quite accomplished in many ways. And I was really impressed with the people. And it's a vast country.
And like you, I've been all over the world, and, you know, I think that people who have never been outside the United States don't know that you can see the spark of divinity in a child's eyes in the Middle East. You can see kindness in people who are living in poverty. You can see all kinds of wonders of creation all around the world. And I think the readings suggest that ultimately we are all our brothers and sisters' keeper, and that eventually will become the motto that transforms the world.
Kevin, I worked in the Middle East for about 7 years. And this is a kind of an interesting story about how people are viewed in other parts of the world. This is kind of funny. But in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, they're actually very moderate Muslims. And right outside the airport, there's a liquor store. And it said, whiskey, beer, and wine, Christians only. And they would actually issue a permit, but you had to prove that you were not a Muslim to go in there.
You were Christian.
So
yeah.
Quite interesting.
Yeah.
Kevin?
That you literally get hundreds of people claiming to be the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce almost every year. Do you believe that Edgar Cayce has reincarnated? And do you believe that David Wilcock is the reincarnation of Cayce?
So I do not believe that Edgar Cayce has reincarnated. David met members of the Cayce family. He met me. He met many people. And without not saying anything about David, I think he's very talented, but I don't think anyone in Virginia Beach believes that David
Wilcock
or anyone else who has yet shown up is the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce. In terms of people who think or have a connection with Edgar Cayce, I know David, and I like David, and he was in Virginia Beach for a while, but let me say it this way. There are so many people claiming to be the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce that we have a form letter for it, and I'm not kidding. And David is not the first person to have that experience, and I think it is an experience that is kind of like an archetypal experience. David met members of the Cayce family. He met me. He met many people. I don't think anyone in Virginia Beach believed that David is the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce. And I can tell you, let me give you an analogy. There was a person who came to Edgar Cayce when Edgar Cayce was still alive, and he had memories of being President James A. Garfield, who probably no one knows, but he was one of the presidents of the United States, and he was assassinated. And he had a psychic who told him he was the reincarnation of President James A. Garfield, and he actually had real memories of being James A. Garfield. Cayce gave him a reading and told him that for many years he had been one of Garfield's best friends, and he had really admired Garfield, and that Garfield had been such a memory for him, he had picked up some of those memories, but he was not the reincarnation of President James A. Garfield. But I once wrote an article for our magazine, which members get, called "Will the Real Edgar Cayce Please Stand Up?", which talked about some of the many hundreds of people who have contacted the organization about being Edgar Cayce. There were so many that Hugh Lynn Cayce used to come up. He was Edgar Cayce's oldest son,
had a list of several questions to ask people who claimed to be the reincarnation or claimed to be channeling. And over the years, no one was able to answer those questions. And I picked up those questions using some of the same ones ever since I've been CEO over the last 10 years. And again, no one has been able to answer those questions. So I do not believe that Edgar Cayce has reincarnated. I don't think anyone in Virginia Beach believed that David or anyone else who has yet shown up is the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce.
Kevin, the Cayce organization was founded in 1931, and I know you have two schools associated with the ARE, Atlantic University and the Cayce Riley School of Massage. Can you speak about these?
Sure. Let me speak about each one. We'll start with the Cayce Riley School of Massage. Dr. Helen J. Riley was a physiotherapist who lived in New York. Edgar Cayce would give readings for people in New York, and he kept mentioning this guy named Dr. Harold Riley, who Cayce had no knowledge of. But he talked about how Riley was really good with osteopathy and massage, and he would send people to him frequently. Eventually, Dr. Riley came down to see out who this Cayce was, because he kept getting referrals from him, and they became lifelong friends. The Cayce Riley School of Massage is really its basic program is a 700-hour, 2-semester program where people come from all over the world and they learn how to become massage therapists. Some states have more hours that you need for licensure, like I think New York is 1,000. But the school makes those extra hours available to you as an addition, depending on your state. So the school was founded in 1987, and so far we have graduated about 2,500 students from 22 different countries. Massage helps with circulation. It helps with the stimulation of the body organs. If you're on staff at ARE, I will actually pay you once a week to get a massage. So it's a great benefit, and I just had a massage on Friday. So the massage school also has people come in from all over. Not only conferees come for a massage, but people at the north end of Virginia Beach come, because you can get an hour-long massage from a student for $35 and just rate that student in terms of their technique and everything. So the massage school is great. The university we have is Atlantic University, and Atlantic University was actually founded by Edgar Cayce in 1930. At the time, it was a co-ed undergraduate university. It was the first university in Virginia Beach. Today, it's a completely online program. It has 2 accredited master's degrees, one in transpersonal psychology and one in mindfulness leadership. But students are all over, and you can get an accredited master's degree online. And if you don't really want a master's degree, it's also open for other students who are just interested in lifelong learning.
But it's
so those are our two.
It's all online, and it is accredited.
It is accredited. There are some programs that offers that you have to do some of the curriculum in residence. Like we have a integrative imagery program related to hypnosis, and although you can do some of the curriculum online, you have to do practicums in Virginia Beach. So we do have a residential component to that.
Wow.
And then ARE is a membership organization that was founded in 1931. We have members all over the world. You probably know we have Edgar Cayce centers in 30 different countries. I'm actually going to the Edgar Cayce Center in Sweden in September, and the Edgar Cayce Center in Australia next March for some of their programs. And in fact, the Edgar Cayce Center in Japan just helped with a Japanese documentary on the life of Edgar Cayce that we're showing in Virginia Beach as a kind of like a premier event next Saturday. We expect a couple hundred people with that. But the ARE is a membership organization. We have a magazine. Members of ARE can access on their home computers all 14,000 Edgar Cayce readings. We have monthly lessons. It's really a great organization, and you get to meet members all over the world.
Kevin, in our Earthkeeper event, Equinox Weekend in Arkansas, we are going to sponsor a membership drive for the ARE, and we have a goal of 325 new members.
Wow,
What
that's
are
incredible.
what are some of the benefits, the additional benefits that individuals
Sure.
take part in the ARE, the magazine, et cetera?
We have a magazine, Venture Inward. We have a newsletter that comes out quarterly. We have the Edgar Cayce readings online. We have a members-only section to the website that has all the former membership materials, all the way back to the 1940s. Great articles. We have videos and programs. I know that John Van Auken is a frequent guest at Earthkeepers. You can watch
Yes.
John and I age over the last 30 years in our video library. So it's fascinating. But we have all kinds of programs, all kinds of articles. You know, the goal of the organization is really about self-improvement, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And we have a wealth of information on each of those areas: how to have a better diet, how to work with your thoughts, how to have better meditation, how to become a better person. All of our, we offer programs in profound personal change, and through those programs in a variety of ways, whether it's study groups or even a book or an article, we help people to help themselves to become the best that they can be.
Kevin, within the last week, there were 2 celebrities that committed suicide. And in looking at this issue, according to statistics, the suicide rate has increased in America by over 33% in the last decade. We have a question from one of our listeners to you, Kevin, and it's from Roberta. And it says, given the difficult times of transition we are passing through, what are the most important guidelines Edgar Cayce has for us in the new millennia?
Well, let me first speak a little bit about depression. That I think that depression is something that can affect all of us, whether sometimes it's for a short time, sometimes it's for a longer duration. And I think that depression is really, there's lots of components to it. Sometimes it can be physical, and someone needs, medicinal help to get out of it. Sometimes it is, the nature of the soul is essentially a seeker. Each and every one of us is a seeker. We just don't necessarily know that. And when we can't find what we think we're looking for, lots of times that can lead to depression. Cayce would say that what we're ultimately all looking for is not food or drink or relationships or a quick fix, but we're ultimately looking for our true relationship with the divine. And that's the search we should all be on. And if we do that search and make sure that the body's in alignment and attunement, we would have less, let's say, dark nights of the soul. Mm-hmm. Now, to answer the question she then asked, or he asked, which was, what should we be about? There's this old saying that if you have a future in mind, you need to walk a path that is a part of that future. Otherwise, you're never going to get there. And so I would say that the Cayce readings suggest that the future we're all headed for has to do with 3 things. The oneness of God, that somehow we have got into a mindset that we feel like different religions are better than other religions. Cayce would say that religion is really a man-made device for having community with others of like mind. Spirituality is about our own true relationship with the divine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with a religion unless it becomes divisive in terms of other children of God, because we're all children of God. So the future we're headed for is an understanding of the oneness of God. He would also say we're headed for a future that has to do with the spiritual nature of humankind, that we are physical beings having we're spiritual beings having a physical experience, and that sometimes we get so caught up in the physicality of our lives, with the need to make money, with the need to have a career, with the need to have personal fulfillment, that we forget where we're really here. And we're really here to somehow transform the world. That's why we're here. I often tell the ARE staff that we are all employees for God. Some of us are only working part-time, and some of us forget to clock in now and then, but every soul on the earth is actually an employee for God, and our job is to somehow bring divinity into the earth. That's why we're here. And so our future has to do with somehow bringing the best that we can know into the earth. And then the third component has to do with becoming cognizant of our responsibility to one another. I have a friend who every once in a while becomes very upset about all the problems in Israel or the Middle East, even to the point of becoming angry about it. And yet the same person has not spoken to his sister for 5 years. To me, there's a disconnect there, that somehow you can't necessarily solve the problems that are on the other side of the world, but you can definitely solve the problems in your own life, whether they're at work or in your home relationships or whatever it is. So Cayce would say, in order to get to where we want to go, we need to start creating elements of that future in our present right now.
Absolutely. Kevin, we have a question from Dawn, and she says, can you please talk a little bit about the Enlightenment series lessons?
Sure. As background information, in 1931, after the Edgar Cayce Hospital closed, he became depressed to the depths of his soul and wondered what he should be doing. So a group of his friends rallied around him, and some of them wanted readings on how they could become more psychic. Cayce gave a reading and suggested that, ultimately the goal was to become more spiritual, and as you became more spiritual, you would become psychic as kind of like a second component of that. And so he outlined over the next 11 years 24 lessons in personal spirituality. Well, the Enlightenment series are really a new take, an updated take, let's say, or a take in modern language on those very same lessons. So the thing like learning how to work with cooperation, learning about personal reflection, working with love or patience. And what we have in the members only section is we have videos with myself talking about what Cayce might say about personal cooperation. And then there's little exercises you can try for the week or for a day or two of how to put cooperation into your life. So it's a very short, practical, easy to understand way to work with enlightenment and personal spirituality in day-to-day life.
Kevin, Edgar spoke about 3 locations on the earth which contain the Atlantean Hall of Records. I wanted to mention that I'm aware that the ARE has funded expeditions and searches. Last night on an interview program, Dr. Robert Schock was on Coast to Coast, and he said that very recently they have absolutely located a vacant room beneath the Sphinx. Can you speak about the Hall of Records?
Well, I can speak about them in general. I cannot speak about. I'm not sure which room at this point Dr. Schock is speaking of, but I will tell you what Cayce had to say.
Right.
He said that when the Atlantean civilization realized that it was on the verge of destruction, that it decided to keep remnants of its civilization for the future. And it buried the history of those remnants in 3 different places. One was the Yucatan, one was beneath the paw of the Sphinx, and one was in what is now probably the uppermost regions of Bimini, in the Bimini area. Mm-hmm. And the idea was that eventually humankind would rediscover its origins and realize we had been on this planet much longer than we thought, and realize we had reached a height of technological achievement much sooner than we thought, and that somehow that information would lead to us having some kind of a spiritual / humankind renaissance. So for years, ARE has sponsored research in Bimini. We've done such things as hired a submarine with sonar off on either side of the submarine looking for right-angled objects, and we found one. Greg and Laura Little, at Earthkeepers, they could talk about some of their work doing that.
Absolutely.
We've worked with Zahi Hawass, who was for years essentially the curator of the Giza Plateau. We've bought him a drill for $10,000 because he needed a drill for underground plumbing, and we promised to buy it if he would put the drill in a certain place and look for anomalies beneath the Sphinx. So we've tried to go to Yucatan on occasion. Now it's, in an area that's not that safe. But we've sponsored research all over the world because Cayce suggested that the evidence remained and would eventually bring to the awareness of humankind more information about our origins.
And I think that, this particular event is going to have a lot of information, the one that we're having in September, about Atlantis, about the Hall of Records. Andrew Collins will be there.
Yep.
Doctors Greg and Laura Little, who have made the trip to Guatemala. And Dr. Robert Schock mentioned that they had used a sonar device and found a space beneath the paw of the Sphinx that sort of may correlate with the area of the Hall of Records that Edgar Cayce spoke about, but they can't.
Yeah, it's all very fascinating. Yeah, it's all fascinating. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, but some of Greg and Laura's underwater photography of the right-angled objects they can see under the slime of ages, as Cayce calls it,
yes,
are quite fascinating.
Yeah, it's absolutely intriguing, and what an amazing find that would be. And so that's something else that we have to look forward to occurring. Kevin, speaking of Guatemala and Greg and Laura, there was a massive volcanic eruption in Guatemala within the past couple of weeks. There's volcanic activity in Hawaii now. And Cayce gave specific readings, which are on the ARE website, that speaks about the volcanic activity and earth changes. And so that's something that is very worthwhile for people to look into on the ARE website.
Absolutely. In fact, our blog, if you go to edgarcayce.org, at the bottom of the page there's a link for the blog. You can actually type in any topic like earth changes or volcano, or let's say you're interested in castor oil, whatever it might be, and recent articles on the blog will come up. And we do a blog at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, so there's hundreds of articles there.
What are, just a few, and we've got about 10 minutes left, what are some of your favorite readings, some interesting readings from Edgar Cayce?
Well, I mean, after 37 years, there are so many.
Yes.
So let me just give you some. The thing that fascinates me is even after all these years, I still find what you might call new things, and in all likelihood, it's stuff that I came across but didn't really see in the past. But I would say maybe 7 years ago, I came across a reading that talked about the illusion of time and the fact that there really isn't time outside of the Earth. And I kind of did I wonder how many readings talk about this. And, there are more than 100 readings that talk about the illusion of time. And after exploring them and seeing that basically Cayce said that time is an illusion, but it's very hard for us to separate ourselves from this illusion that we have thrust upon us from the very moment we take our first breath, meaning that, we have time to when we go to school, we have time when we celebrate holidays, we have time for work, time for play. But he suggests that we treat time like a timeline where there's a past, a present, and a future, and that instead, real time there's only now, and that all of our past lives, all of our present experiences, and all of even our future lives are happening at the same moment in time, and that all that really changes is where we're holding our consciousness in any one moment or another. And as weird as that sounds, I've actually had several experiences out of time that suggest there's something to what he's saying there. So that would be one experience, one readings that have to do with the illusion of time. Another would be his, there's so many, some of his information on Jesus. I was raised in a very strict Catholic household, and I have to honestly say I didn't really have a strong connection to religion. I didn't really have a strong connection to understanding who Jesus was. I didn't have a strong connection to the Bible. But working with Cayce's information on understanding that Jesus is not the beginner of a new religion, but instead an elder brother who somehow came to show us how to treat one another, that whole set of information truly has transformed my life and let me see Jesus as a pattern for every soul in the earth, regardless of the religion.
Right.
So I would say the information on Jesus is another one. The information on taking care of yourself in terms of health, in my own case, allergies, certainly would be another one. I would say his information on dreams. I've spoken on dreams on 5 continents, probably have taught a couple of thousand students dream interpretation. How easy it is to access guidance from our dreams would be another one. And in fact, at the Earthkeepers Conference, I'm going to try to do a waking dream with everyone there. I've done it for groups as big as 300. I've never done 700 or more, so we'll see what happens. But it is an amazing experience. Yeah,
now,
and I've done it at high schools throughout Virginia Beach, and people are amazed at how easy it is to have a waking dream psychic experience that is accurate.
Now, Kevin, as a geologist, and I lived outside the United States for over 30 years and worked outside the United States. And I've always had great interest in crystals and gemstones after reading Edgar Cayce. And I was introduced to Cayce on the banks of the Amazon River, and I'll share that story. I speak at the ARE in October. But Cayce made this reading, or offered this reading. We find that the gemstone has a helpful influence if carried or worn about the body, not as an omen, not merely as a good luck piece, a good luck charm, but rather the source of those vibrations that are needed to keep helpful influences close to the body. He also gave a reading in which he stated crystals were used by the spiritual law of one in Atlantis to communicate with the divine, to interface with other worlds. Recently, we donated a large crystal, and it's pictured on the website now. It's pictured on the broadcast, 600-pound crystal that is in the ARE meditation room. Is that open to the public?
It is, and it is the largest piece, I believe it's rose quartz, that I have ever seen. I mean, it's on a stand making it taller than I am, and it is amazing. And when people walk into that room, they're drawn over to that corner of the room immediately, because I don't think people have ever seen anything that large. In fact, it is so big, we couldn't get it up to the 3rd floor in the elevator on its crate. We had to separate the crate from the stone, taking them one at a time.
Well, it's actually snow quartz. It's not rose. Rose quartz never gets that big, but it is double terminated, and it is an extraordinary piece. And when I come there in October, I'm hoping that we can sort of do a little programming of it and experiment a little bit with communicating with the divine. I do believe
that would be great.
I do believe that crystal will absorb, crystals are recorders, all of the high intentions, all of the noble inspirational feelings. It will record them and amplify them back. I also believe that the crystal will create a field of multidimensionality. That is how they enabled people to communicate with other worlds. So I'm thinking that actually the energy of Edgar Cayce may be able to manifest through that at some point. But I certainly would recommend to all of our listeners, make a trip to Virginia Beach, visit that crystal, go through the ARE, look at the bookstore, look at the hospital, the massage facility, the libraries. The ARE is a sacred site. Edgar Cayce specifically chose Virginia Beach because of the energy of place. It is a portal. It is a vortexial energy, and it is centered at the ARE. What is the actual hours of the ARE headquarters in Virginia Beach?
The visitor center is open 10 to 6 Monday through Saturday in the summer, and then noon to 6 on Sunday. And we have conferences twice a month. And like you said, you're coming in October. I'm very much looking forward to that. Mm-hmm. We have activities every day, free activities. We have a restaurant there on site, open from 10 to 3, where people can come have a salad or a sandwich or soup. They can come get a spa treatment for the day. They can come to a lecture. They can research the Edgar Cayce readings in the library. It is just an incredible, we're one of the most popular visitor attractions in Virginia Beach, Virginia. So it is a great resource, a great place to be. It's a great place to work.
Cayce actually mentioned that the sand on the coast in Virginia Beach has an unusually high gold content, and that people could actually bury themselves in this sand and balance the physical body, balance the nervous system, and align the chakras. So it is a very special place. Virginia Beach is a port, and it is headquartered, it is centered at the ARE. And I think that crystal will become a pilgrimage point because it carries the wisdom, the energy of all the people that have dedicated their lives to spirituality. And Kevin, I want to acknowledge you for your kindness, for your generosity, for your service. And this applies to all of the people in the ARE. The ARE is a wonderful organization to be a part of. And in these tumultuous times, it is important to have a group, to have a connection to a spiritual brotherhood. Kevin, thank you for this wonderful interview. Thank you again for the work that you're doing. And how can people join the ARE? They just go to the website www.edgarcayce.org and they can join there.
They can, absolutely, and it's only $59 a year to be a member of ARE, and it has a wealth of benefits. I also want to thank you, James, for all you've done for the Edgar Cayce work, because, like you say, it is a very special place, but you have done a great deal to make it known to other people, so we truly appreciate that.
Thank you. That means a lot to me, and I read There Is a River on the banks of the Amazon River in 1978,
wow.
And I was walking on clouds for 3 days.
Yeah.
I was, like you, I was raised in a very religious environment, Baptist, in Arkansas, and I never could really buy into the hellfire and damnation. And when I read Edgar Cayce, I found the answers, and I was absolutely on cloud nine for days after reading that, and it totally changed my life. And I have a debt to Edgar Cayce and to the ARE, and I am inspired by you, Edgar Cayce, Charles Thomas Cayce, Hugh Lynn Cayce, Edgar Evans Cayce, and the entire staff, John Van Auken, James Van Auken, Allison Ray and Allison Parker Hendricks, the entire group are approachable. There is no aloof ego that you often find in metaphysical groups. It is grounded, humble people. And I highly recommend everyone become a member of the ARE. It is more important at this time, perhaps, than any other. Kevin, closing words?
Thanks so much for having me on the program. I look so forward to seeing you in Arkansas in September and then Virginia Beach in October. So thanks to all your listeners for tuning in. I think Earth Keepers is a great organization, and I look forward to seeing you guys close up later this year.
Thank you so very much. And we will close for now. Again, the ARE, www.edgarcayce.org. And Earth Keeper for people that want to register for our event. And it will be a wonderful 4-day event in the Crystal Vortex of Arkansas, the largest singular unbroken deposit of quartz crystal on the planet. It's more than 177 miles long. There are diamond mines and magnetites in this energy. It's a very unusual energy. And so we welcome all of you to attend, and it will be a wonderful event. My name is James Tyberonn with Earthkeeper. Thank you very much, and we will close.
Once there was a way to get back homeward. Once there was a way to get back home. Sleep, pretty darling, do not cry, and I will sing a lullaby. Get back homeward. Once there was a way to get back home. Sleep, pretty darling, do not cry, and I will sing a lullaby. Boy, you're gonna carry And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you give. All that you touch and all that you see, all that you taste, all you feel, and all that you love and all that you hate, all you distrust, all you save, and all that you give, and all that you deal, and all that you buy, big, borrow, or steal, and all you create, and all you destroy, and all that you do, and all that you say, and all that you eat, and everyone you meet, and all that you slight, and everyone you fight, and all that is now, and all that is gone, and all that's to come, and everything under the sun is in June, but the sun is eclipsed by the moon.
I've heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do you? It goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall and the major lift. The baffled king composing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. You say I took the name in vain. I don't even know the name, but if I did, well really, what's it to you? There's a blaze of light in every word. It doesn't matter what you heard, the holy or the broken. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. I did my best, it wasn't much. I couldn't feel, so I tried to touch. I've told the truth, I didn't come to fool you. And even though it all went wrong, I'll stand before the Lord of Song with nothing on my tongue but hallelujah, 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 hallelujah,
Every night in my dreams, I see you, I feel you. That is how I know you. Go on. Far across the distance and spaces between us, you have come to show you. Go on. Near, far, wherever you are, I believe that the heart does. Go on. Once more, you open the door, and you're here in my heart, and my heart will go on and on. Love can touch us one time and last for a never let go till we're gone. Love was when I loved you one true time. I hold you in my life will always go on. Near, far, wherever you are, I believe that the heart does go on. Once more, you open the door, and you're here in my heart, and my heart will go on and there's nothing I fear, and I know that my heart will go on. We'll stay forever this way. You are safe in my heart, and my heart will go on
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. It's not warm when she's away. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and she's always gone too long. Anytime she goes away, wonder this time where she's gone. Wonder if she's gone to stay. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and this house just ain't no home. Anytime she goes away, and I know, 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 I know. Hey, I'll leave a young thing alone, but ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Only darkness every day. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and this house just ain't no home. Anytime she goes away, anytime she goes away, anytime she goes away, anytime she goes.
Promise me that you'll give faith a fighting chance. And when you get the choice to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance. I hope you dance. I hope you never fear those mountains in the distance. Never settle for the path of least resistance. Living might mean taking chances, but they're worth taking. Loving might be a mistake, but it's worth making. Don't let some helping heart leave you bitter. When you come close to selling out, reconsider. Give the heavens above more than just a passing glance. And when you get the choice to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance.
Is a will and constant motion.
I hope you dance.
Alone.
I hope
Tell
you
me
dance.
who wants to look back on their youth and
I
wonder
hope you
where those years have gone.
I hope you still feel small when you stand beside the ocean. Whenever one door closes, I hope one more opens. Promise me that you'll give faith a fighting chance. And when you get the choice to sit it out or dance, dance. I hope you dance. I hope you dance.
Is a will and constant motion.
I hope you dance.
Alone.
I hope
Tell
you
me who wants to look back on their youth and
I
wonder
hope
where
you
those years
dance.
have gone. Tell me who wants to look back on their youth and wonder where those years have gone.
Even through the darkest phase, be it thick or thin, always someone much is brave here beneath my skin. in